I'd love to have your thoughts more, Brendan, on this equation and some of the parameters. I mean, you mentioned 8 hours and 4 hours. I think those are reasonable numbers. Did you have a chance to look at the equation while we're on this call that I pinged you on?
No, I did not, but I can pull it up right now.
It's in the protocol chat.
We're discussing the curve.
Yeah.
John Deere?
Can I
Yo,
get a good fucking morning from you?
good fucking morning.
Woo! Nice.
Austin, can we stop recording?
Is L here L2SR?
Yes.
And T is seasons since peg cross?
Yeah. Seasons above peg cross.
And is this with a time weighted average delta B above greater than 0?
Yeah.
Why is there a minus 0.12?
That's just the current lower bound for the L2SR optimal range. So it would actually be the variable, but I didn't write it in here.
Wait, the lower bound
Uh,
is 3%,
In
right?
the
Oh, no,
0.28 is
that's
the upper minus the lower.
I see.
Got it. So if the L2SR is greater than 0.28, it doesn't go higher.
Yeah, if it's higher than 0.28, it's just going to use the time component. And if it's lower
How
than,
does it change with the lower L2SR?
you mean, how does it change if it's less than 0.12?
So a lower L2SR means the initial penalty is lower.
Correct. And the rate of change is also smaller because they all converge on 0.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is a good curve.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to process in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess it's like for me, I wonder if it's equal to, I mean, I understand it's complicated, um, to do so, but like, I feel like the larger it is above peg, the lower the penalty should be. But I totally understand that's harder to do. Like, I'm just trying to think about ways we can limit. Like, I feel like what we want is to create an environment where minting will occur when this penalty is active, but minting will not occur too much. I understand that's like a very complicated thing to actually do. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm curious if you guys have thought about that at all.
Well, I thought
Ways to
about it, but
actually do that. Go ahead.
it was hard. It was unclear to me how that could be done in a way that was not avoidable. I guess one of the ideas that um, somebody brought
If
up.
you would do a flash loan down convert and convert back up and then buy back up.
Well, I guess the idea that I was considering earlier was a little bit different. But if you're applying the penalty based on the range above peg, and then the penalty gets, I mean, then I guess we're kind of, I mean, that's almost like creating a range above peg where you can't mint, right? And we're saying like arbitrary number 1,000 delta p is not convertible with a reasonable economic cost.
I mean, I guess
I'm not sure that I love it, actually. I mean, I think that
if we set like some, what if it was like above the over high price threshold, there is no convert penalty.
that is already true. Sorry, that's not
Oh
shown
yeah.
here, but if p is greater than q, there is no penalty ever.
Cool. That makes sense. I'm happy with that. I mean, I feel like Q is currently set to be a little high for my liking in that case, but
Yeah, I would actually be
you
fine
know,
making it much tighter.
um, but yeah, I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head the other use cases for Q, such that I don't know if it would that decreasing Q would have implications elsewhere.
Free, how do you remember?
I mean, the only thing it does right now is that the crop ratio decreases significantly when the price is above Q. But the thing is, from a practice perspective, it would probably always the crop ratio is probably going to be very small once it hits that threshold anyhow. So
I mean, would we be comfortable changing Q to like 1.025 instead of 1.05?
1 point, yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
So
I like that.
I mean, I guess at these very low supplies, it's much higher. I mean, it's much more likely to hit it.
I mean,
go ahead.
I do think with the system, you're not going to see. I mean, I do like that change, but I do think with this sort of convert penalty, you're not going to see like runaway price as a result of this penalty. Because if you're minting I mean, to get there, you're not going to get there in one season, right? So you're going to mint over, multiple seasons, slowly building up to that point. And the more seasons that you're minting within a stretch of time, the more converts are going to be able to convert down at like a negligible amount of grown stock cost. So I do think the system
That's
sort of
true.
builds up downwards momentum in the short term.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, I'm happy. I mean, I would still like to change Q, but I don't think it's necessary.
I would like
Um,
to as well.
Great. I guess there's still the concern of, I mean, I guess, are we concerned about, a flash loan by Pinto above the value price, convert down, and then sell to avoid the growing stock penalty? Or do we evaluate Q with, is that the current reserve? Is that the capped reserve? Or is that the instantaneous reserve as we currently evaluate it?
Well, this hasn't been written yet. I think we can use any of those and then be valid. My instinct is
Great.
instant.
What is the use for the crop rate? Is it TWAP?
What are we talking about?
What oracle does it use when it evaluates Q in relation to changing the crop rate?
It uses the TWA.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like so long as we use the cap to the instantaneous, we solve the flash loan problem in relation to this. Are we looking at Q before the convert or after the convert as when evaluating whether there should be a growing stock penalty?
Before the convert.
So someone can convert from above Q down to peg. So basically saying, I guess like this is like, do we want people to convert all the way down to peg when if we go above Q, or do we just want to cap how much can be minted?
I think so. I mean, being above Q is like a pretty extreme situation. At that point, just let them go.
Yeah, even I agree with that.
Okay.
LOL.
Amazing. Okay. Then I feel aligned with this. I think this is a great curve you guys put together.
Wait, was it settled on the? Did you have an opinion between TWAP and instant price?
I mean, TWAP doesn't make sense because we're not evaluating it at the end of the season, right? Or are we? I assumed we were evaluating Q when we convert to determine whether or not there's some sort of penalty, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, that's correct.
So the penalty is dynamic then, yeah, throughout like at every moment the penalty is different, basically.
The penalty only applies when P is above Q. So
No, the
it's
penalty only applies when P is above 1 but less than Q, right?
yeah, less
Yeah.
than Q. I'm saying the penalty only like changes to 0 when it's above Q. but
Right,
anywhere below
yeah.
that range.
The
So
Oakville
it's-
star is not going to change either. Like that'll be set at the sunrise.
Cool. So it is.
So the penalty will be turned on at the sunrise. It will persist, and for that whole season, there'll be no penalty.
Well, the rate of the penalty will be set at sunrise effectively, but the queue and price check will be on every single convert.
Cool. So the great. Okay. For some reason, I thought you just said the opposite, but that makes sense to me.
I mean, getting P is pretty complicated. We don't have like a get P function.
Oh my god, I forgot. I've run into this like 7 times already.
How do we do it on the sunrise?
Well, we calculate it because we already have like the TWA liquidity, and we already query all the oracles needed
And
to
then
have it.
how do we average them?
We don't. We just take the highest liquidity well.
Got it.
Do we have a delta P?
It should be in whatever well you're converting in, I feel like. Whatever well you're converting in, if it's greater than Q, where you can convert down to peg. Maybe. I mean, I feel like that's a very simple solution there. So that way it's like some wells will be converted down, but we won't totally shut off all mints.
Yeah.
If all the wells are greater than Q, then we'll shut off all mints. But to me, this is a way so it's like, yeah, we can set a cap on the upper limit. I mean, unfortunately, there's going to be some arbitrage MEV that's going to be capturable, but yeah, it does feel like it's a simple solution that does what I feel like we want it to do.
Yeah, it feels pretty elegant.
Mhm.
What's the MEV that's capturable? I missed that.
Well, say all the wells are 1.015, and then ETH price spikes, so ETH goes above 1.025. Someone is going to convert down in that well all the way down to peg, and an arbitrager is going to arbitrage the price back up to match the other wells.
Oh, I see. I think that's fine. I mean, you can already arbitrage any of the wells outside of the convert system at no cost, so I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean that matches the behavior we already have.
Yeah, I mean we have a function already. The LP when every convert we check the amount to convert to peg, and that we get all the data we need to calculate the price. I believe. So
Across all wells, or just in the well you're converting in?
just in the well you're converting, but if we're saying we're getting we're calculating P based on the well.
Yeah, totally.
From the implementation perspective, it's much easier than getting all the.
I think per well is great. Keep it
Great.
easy.
And are we going to use instantaneous reserves or cap? What do we use for the? I mean, do we use either of those reserves already in the convert function?
Yeah, I'm checking which.
I'm pretty indifferent between the two. I think they both get the job done because here we're trying to protect against flash loans mostly from my perspective.
We call get reserves.
So we don't call it either.
Yeah, we use the instantaneous, or we use like the value in the reserves right now to calculate the beans at peg. But to make it manipulation resistant, we use the well penalty thing that for Pinto developed.
Not like sets limits every season, or how does that work?
Well, in order to
Are you
convert,
the minimum of the two?
when we convert, we check the delta P's and reserves before and after the transaction. But the first portion is the cap reserves, I believe. Or can you give some more color, perhaps?
Yeah. So every block there's this convert capacity, and I believe the convert capacity is set at the capped reserves.
But do we query the cap reserves like once we're converting? I get it in the beginning of Sunrise. We get the cap reserve and set it. But I'm wondering what do we call right now in a regular convert?
Yeah, so because the capped reserves, or because the convert cap is set each block, we only check and set the convert capacity for the block upon the first convert within the block. And
Mm.
and so it's on a per block basis. Like on the next block, there's already a new convert capacity, and that's basically how the flash loan prevention works. So you can never convert towards peg more than the amount of the capped reserves within a block. Capped reserves delta B.
Okay, so if we calculate the cap, I mean, if somewhere in the code we're getting the cap reserves, we can just expose that, and then we can use that in the penalty calculation.
Yeah, we already are getting the capped reserves for every single convert.
Right.
Well, there's 2 convert flows, right? So I'm not sure we can over engineer for that generalized convert.
Both the regular convert function and the gen convert function go through the stock penalty calculation. So they both follow the same stock penalty rules, actually.
That already exists?
That already exists. Otherwise, you could game the system and you could still do the flash line exploit on the old convert, which we didn't want. So hence we added the convert penalties to the old convert function.
How is capped reserves flash loan resistant?
It's like this, multi-block MEV pump magic stuff.
Is the reserves
It sets a
Go ahead. I just want to know what it is. Like I understand what the instant is, I understand what the TWAP is, and I understand what the current is.
Oh, it's like the instantaneous reserves at the end, or the manipulation resistant reserves at the end of the last block.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
and it puts a cap on how much they can change from block to block.
Would that also be interesting? Side question. I was looking at good oracles for a lending market. Would it be better to use the capped reserves instead of the instant reserves? I was planning to use the instant reserves. But the capped reserves just sound like the instant reserves with an extra layer of protection.
Yeah, I mean it's only stale for one block compared to the instantaneous.
How can it possibly be less stale than the instantaneous?
Because the instantaneous also places the cap, but then continues it to this block, whereas the cap reserves only does it to the block before.
I didn't understand that. The cap reserves only EMAs for 2 blocks, current and previous.
The EMA is the EMA, but it only goes up to the previous the reserves at the block before at a high level, whereas the instantaneous goes up to this current block.
I see. Okay, sure. So it sounds like the instantaneous legs less, but is less manipulation resistant.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one block of staleness. Or sorry, you use the cap reserves, you gain one block of staleness.
I mean, you sacrifice in
Yeah,
a bad way 1 block
You
of staleness.
yeah. That's a
Okay.
better way to.
Okay. Sorry for the side tangent. Thank you for the information.
One thing I want to come back to here is that you said with the L2SR of 15%, it only creates a penalty of 11%. Do you want to change this? I mean, I do feel like 11% doesn't feel like it does the job if the goal is to like penalize.
Yeah, I feel similarly based on my intuition with no data. But in my head, if it's only 11%, like people might just go back to the behavior of instant converting down.
And when the L2SR is 20, and could you once we're above optimal, what is the penalty?
It's only calculated based on the time component.
With the log
So-
2 applied.
Yeah, it'll look like this log chart, but ranging from 1 to 0.
Okay, let me. Sorry, I'm just using Desmos right now to see what that
Okay.
looks like.
I mean, Brendan, you earlier said maybe we should have a smaller initial penalty. Like, does 11% sound like it would? I mean, does 11% sound like it would actually deter people, or does that sound smaller than you were expecting?
I think it sounds small-ish. But I feel like it would deter me.
Mm.
I mean, especially given how old the current deposits are, it would deter me.
Right. Yeah. It definitely affects, the older deposit. The older the deposit, the greater the effect.
But I feel like, I mean, right now the initial range is between like 100% and
I mean, effectively 0%.
0%.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to make that more of like a concentrated but higher range.
Yeah, I agree. The
And
an upper bound of 100% sounds steep. Um, yeah, no problem with the lower bound of 0. I feel like 0.1 to 0.5 is a good range. And I feel like right now 0.2 to 0.25 sounds right, but making it up.
what is 0.2 to 0.25 applied for?
Like what it should be at the current L2SR level is what I'm thinking. With like, at the highest possible L2SR, the penalty is like 0.5, but it could go higher too. But then at the highest level L2SR, it's not like there's going to be much demand to convert down anyway.
Yeah. I mean, this does create
And
more
then
jump at, when above the behavior, like the penalty jumps when L2SR crosses over the bounds. I'm not sure if that's a big
Why?
deal. But generally, we
In
don't.
the current setting,
Well, if we bound the initial penalty kind of in these ranges that you're describing, then there's going to be like a jump from this bounded initial to the initial of the outside of the range area. I mean, unless you think that. I mean, do you also think that these bounds should apply when outside of this L2SR optimal range?
I mean, I guess that's what I was suggesting. Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I was suggesting like when the L2SR is extremely high, the penalty would just be fixed at 0.5, and when the L2SR is extremely low, the penalty would be fixed at like 0.1 or 0. Yeah, I don't think there should be a jump. I feel like that. I feel like with we've made a step into the range of like we want to try to use continuous functions as opposed to like piecewise. And I'd like to stick to that. So I feel like
Yeah.
it should, similar to what we did for the soil below peg, we should have a min and a max. And while we're between the L2SR bounds, there's like some function between them. I think the function you guys have set up here is great. I think it's just a matter of saying like what's the min and what's the max.
Mm.
And currently the min and max are 0 and 1.
Yeah.
And do we want to stick to that?
I mean, I do think it should converge to 0 at when t equals max t.
When t equals
Yeah.
max t, it should definitely be 0. But I'm saying when t equals 1. When t equals 1, should it be 0 or should it be 0.1? What is it now if t equals 1?
If t equals 1 and L2SR is 12%, it'll be 0.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense to me. I guess, yeah.
I mean, in like a mathematical sense, it's elegant, but in like a practical sense, the penalty becomes ineffective at some unknown L2SR that is
I don't know
greater.
if that's necessarily what we want. I don't think having a super low O2SR is necessarily a bad thing.
Right. So maybe. So I think what you're saying is that
Like it
below
is not a great thing, but I don't know if it's like pure panic such that we would. Yeah, but maybe it is.
Well, I mean, I guess based on the Beanstalk data, it's not. I mean, 5% was recoverable. So
Yeah, I
what
guess the
I'm
thing.
thinking
Yeah,
then is that I should not just have this like binary or this like static 0% penalty below the lower bound. Instead, it should be something like, remove the L2SR components, but range it from 10% to 0%.
yeah. I guess it's like if someone really does think that you know Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of setting. So right now it feels like we feel good about everything. It's just what is the lower bound on the T equals one penalty and what's the upper bound on the T equals one penalty. Right now, the lower bound is is the 0% penalty and the upper bound is there's 100% penalty. And what we're talking about right now is tightening that range to be something like 10 to 50%.
Well, yeah, that's part of it, and then the other part of it is, I mean, this equation only applies in the the optimal L2SR range. So then the other part of it is, what do we do outside of the optimal range?
I feel like it's fine to have it fixed at the max or the min outside of the optimal range. I mean, that's what we decided to do for like
With no
the below peg soil, right? Like we have some scalar while we're between the optimal debt ranges and when we're outside of the optimal debt ranges. But we could have it be such that at like 100% L2SR, the penalty is 1, and at 0% L2SR, the penalty is 0. Like we could just make the range, we could make it a function of L2SR at all prices, but uh, it's hard for me to know. I mean, I don't really have a preference here.
I mean, I guess that would naturally give it a range of like 12% to 40%, which is decent. Actually, that's pretty
Yeah,
close to what was suggested.
yeah. So honestly, I feel like I mean, that works for me. I feel like the more it scales, the better. Um, but I do feel like the L2SR is going to be within the optimal range far more than um the debt level is going to be in the optimal range.
Yeah. Yeah, I expect so.
Mhm.
All right, Freeho, Ford. Any other thoughts?
When Bean started printing, like in March, I'm trying to look at the chart here.
And I wish we could change T. I wish it's like T could be a function of like the percent of seasons or like the amount of time that Pinto spends above peg. Like when Pinto's spending a lot of time above peg, like T should shrink to 1 or 0. Like max T should shrink. And when Pinto's spending less time above peg, T should increase. But I
I
understand
mean,
that's a much more complicated mechanism. But I do like the
I
idea of trying to somehow fluctuate T.
I hear what you're saying. I agree, but I think that effect is naturally implied here because, if you earn deposits that, 48 hours ago, the convert penalty is really quite insignificant to the amount of grown stock that you've acquired. And so I do think
So,
when
I
there's
mean,
long
maybe go ahead.
peg, I think when there's long stretches above peg, you're going to see the behavior that you're targeting right now.
Yeah, I guess what I'm talking about is like if it dips below peg for one season, that resets it. So I guess maybe what I'm thinking is like instead of having T reset when it goes below peg, maybe it could just decrease by 1. So every season Pinto's below peg, T decreases by 1, and every season it's above peg, it increases by 1 between min and max T.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
That would be cool, but if we have a log scale, I guess that would be hard, right? Not though. Like if we were to do the log 2.
Well, T would definitely have a min of 0.
Yeah, T would have a min of 0. So it's like if T goes below peg for, let's say we put the max T to 8. If it's below peg for 8 seasons, the penalty resets. If it's below peg for 4 seasons, the penalty cuts in half. And yeah, so it's like only when it's been. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I'd be happy to have T decrease. We could have T increase and decrease a variable amount too. But I do feel like decreasing it below peg instead of resetting it makes more sense to me.
Yeah, I think with the gauge system, the new gen gauge is it's pretty
Oh
easy to
no,
like.
no gauges will be applied.
Well, this is a gauge. This is a
Oh,
gauge.
goodness.
If we're
Oh,
not
it's the
against it,
gauge. You just check it at sunrise and you add one and you subtract one.
that's the
I don't
gauge.
want-
Yeah,
The gauge is a sledgehammer to handle this line of code that
Sledgehammer.
it's absolutely unnecessary. That is the craziest over engineering in the world. For a +1 -1 with a min and a max,
it's like 2 lines.
I'm triggered. I'm absolutely triggered. I'm seething.
Why are you so triggered?
Did you look at that last PR with the gen gauge?
Yeah, because that's like the infra. You're comparing the infra to the implementation.
Well, I'm not actually upset about the gen gauge. I'm upset about the Z factor. And the Z factor itself was like 200 or 300 lines of code for a variable.
This is just an add or minus.
No,
It's
it's
just like
the Z
these
factor.
even exist.
Yeah, the Z factor is mostly the using the gauge. It's not that much code. It's the gauge that's more code, I think.
I contest. I contest that statement as well. I will consider the gauge.
So-
I will take a look at the gauge. This is a side
So
tangent.
just to restate what's happening, Breen is, making the point that had we included the gen gauge, we would be able to leverage the gen gauge here.
We
We
did.
decided not to add the gen gauge to PI6 because it was too much code.
No, we
And
did. We have gen gauge.
oh,
Gen gauge is live.
great.
You reviewed what? You reviewed it.
I didn't know what I didn't realize that I was reviewing with gen gauge. Apologies.
I'm questioning the quality of Brenton's reviewing now.
For some reason, I thought we agreed to take it out, but that's great that that's there. So, what's your concern, Drew? Not creating a gauge for something so simple doesn't seem optimal. I feel like it's optimal because based on how we see this play out, we might implement a more complicated formula for how we decide to increase and decrease T. Like if
Maybe I
we
don't
release this
understand
thing.
what gauges even do. I mean, this is a number. This is a variable that currently has like a, very little that you can do with it. I can't imagine like a complex gauge. Okay. I'll take a look. I want to appreciate the gauge more. I really don't understand the.
Sorry.
Okay. I'll take a look.
Kind of a side
Wait,
question. Does anyone
unless we
remember?
want to do the T. Like I feel like even without the T, like this is pretty good. This formula. Without changing the T or T max, which is 12 at the moment here. Like if we're doing log T divided by log 12, if the T max, which is 12, changes, wouldn't we need to calculate log 12 on chain, I guess, every time? Or the T max on chain?
I wasn't suggesting T max changes. I was suggesting just T changes. I think T max would be, at least for now, a constant. We could fluctuate T max as well.
But
I mean,
T
that's a
changes
very
every
interesting
season.
point.
T is the one that changes every season, from 1 to 2, from 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and then it will decrease from 4 to 3 when we're below peg, but T max will still be fixed. At least based on based on the conversation we were just having. We're not talking about making T max variable.
got it. Okay, I misunderstood. So T max, instead of just being the difference between the time from the last peg, is now this dynamic variable. that increases.
Yeah, so it's really a T min and a T max, and T min is 0, T max is 12, and then T either, increases by 1 when there's a TWAP above peg and decreases by 1 when there's a TWAP below peg.
Do we want the Tmax to be 12, or do we want to make that
I mean, I
smaller?
like 8, but, with this new system, I feel like I'm okay with 12.
I like 12.
Again, it's very hard. It's something that feels like it's very hard to get right the first time, and, it does feel somewhat arbitrary.
Yeah, very hard.
Like, it'd be really cool if, like, T was constantly hovering between 0 and 12. Like, that would be perfect from my perspective.
So this is 1 minus t. Or sorry, 12 minus t, effectively. Like if t is 1, we want the penalty to be lower.
No, the
Right.
penalty should be higher. When T equals 12, the penalty should be 0. When T equals 1, the penalty should be max.
Got
I mean,
it.
I guess we could do it the other way, but that was my intuition. That was the way I thought. It's like, yeah, we could do T. If T increases when we're above peg, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, that's the way this equation is set up. Yeah,
Yeah, so we're above peg for some amount of time. Well, should there be? Yeah, so if the system's been above peg for like 12 seasons, then dips below for 1 season, and then goes back above the next season, it'll be at t equals 11. So it'll be a very minimal penalty.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, that's like things are
Great.
heating up a little bit too much. Maybe like let the converters rip.
Let the system breathe on the other side.
Totally.
No
Makes a
breathing
lot of
allowed.
sense to me.
Okay, with this system, I think then I was earlier pushing for like a smaller max T, but I think with this system, 12 seems fine to start with. I think
Yeah,
this
me
really
too.
curbs the runaway potential.
Agreed.
But it
Cool.
is ultimately an
So I
arbitrary
think,
number.
go ahead.
So I think the important thing is that we stay open to quick changes if necessary.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of parameters here we can mess around with. So, we have the max penalty, we have the min penalty when T equals 0, then we have the max T, and then we have the formula used to increase and decrease T based on the price that we can always change.
Wait, so we're talking about the blue graph?
Yeah, we're talking about
So yeah, the blue graph is the graph when L2SR is above optimal. And then the red one is the one that ranges between. So like the curve is gonna range from just being flat 0 to blue between 12% and 40%.
we're gonna change that though. We're
On the
gonna make it
L2SR.
so that they all use the same curve.
I see. And what's the rationale behind the logarithms?
Behind the what?
The logarithms?
It's just it gives it that quadratic shape so that the penalty is reduced more dramatically in the first couple hours and then more slowly in the final hours. Theoretically, in a competitive market, you'd see people bidding with some amount of precision towards the end of this range.
Yeah, it's kind of like how the Dutch auction works. It's a very similar, I feel like, justification for why the Dutch auction has a similar shape. There's going to be a lot more competition on the tail end of the penalty, so we want more granularity there.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
Are you done
Nice.
yet, Drew?
I'm all done. This was super helpful. I just
Did you
finished
come
writing the code,
Yeah.
actually.
Great job, guys.
Holy shit, we did it.
I feel great about this, and I'm excited for it. So I
Awesome.
feel like it's properly balanced in its current form.
We did it. Go
And
team.
we have tools to very quickly rebalance it in the event that it feels like it's stopping converts too much.
Mm-hmm. Easy to turn off. Great.
Cool.
I'm glad you're excited about it.
Cool.
I'm glad we found something we're all happy with. Thank you for the time, everybody. It's crucial.
Yeah, thank you guys, Drew and Breed, for putting this together, and Ford if you were part of that process. But great job, guys.
I'll code it up this weekend, so we can drop ASAP.
Beautiful. Then we
All right.
pump.
I'm getting off, fellas.
Yeah, great
GM.
stuff.